Donald Trump has been indicted for the third time by special counsel Jack Smith. The first two involved the Mar-a-Lago documents case, right? There was the first indictment and then the superseding indictment that was unveiled just this week. And now we have a new indictment against Donald Trump. And this is regarding the events surrounding his effort to steal the election and his efforts to thwart our democracy. This is a really beautiful, elegant, simple indictment. It only charges him alone. And there's only 4 counts to this indictment. Why did Jack Smith do it this way? Why did he only charge Donald Trump when there are so many other people he could have charged along with him, right? There's Rudy Giuliani, Mark Meadows, Mr. Cheeseborough, I always forget his first name, John Eastman, just to name a few of the individuals who could have been indicted along with him. He also could have been indicted for many, many, many counts, but he just chose 4. And why is that? Because I believe it's because Jack Smith realizes this is the best chance he has to get a case to go to trial before the election in November. The Mar-a-Lago documents case is not going to go to trial. That's before the election, I should say. Judge Cannon already put it off until May of 2024. And there's 3 defendants and 3 defense attorneys, all who need to make motions, all who need top secret clearance because of the nature of that case. And they still have to deal with the Classified Information Procedures Act and all of that. That's just a more complicated case with more defendants and more charges and more of an opportunity for delay, which is Donald Trump's number one trial tactic. So here you've got 1 defendant, which means 1 defense attorney or 1 set of defenses, 1 defense attorneys, and only 4 charges to make motions on. This is a 45-page indictment. It talks about 3 criminal conspiracies that Donald Trump was involved in addition to just the 4 charges. He was involved in 3 criminal conspiracies. A conspiracy to defraud the United States by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to obstruct the governmental function, which is the presidential election vote count. The second conspiracy is a conspiracy to corruptly obstruct and impede the January 6th proceeding, where the vice president was certifying the election. And I'm actually reading from the indictment, which is why I'm looking down. And the third conspiracy is a conspiracy against the right to vote and have one's vote counted. Okay, those are the 3 conspiracies. Count 1 is the conspiracy to defraud the United States, 18 United States Code, Section 371. The allegation is that the conspiracy occurred over a 2-month period from on or about November 14th, 2020 to on or about January 20th, 2021. And it's about Donald Trump along with co-conspirators, meaning other people. Some are known or unknown to the grand jury, and they tried to defraud the United States by using dishonesty, fraud, and deceit to try to defeat and obstruct the lawful federal government function by which the results of a presidential election are collected and counted. And the purpose was to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election. Now, he lists 6 co-conspirators, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And they list them as co-conspirator number 1, co-conspirator number 2, and so on through 6, right? We can pretty easily determine who the co-conspirators are by the way they were described. It says co-conspirator number 1 is an attorney who was willing to spread knowingly false claims and pursue strategies that the defendant, that his re-election campaign attorneys would not. That's Rudy Giuliani. Co-conspirator number 2, an attorney who devised and attempted to implement a strategy to leverage the vice president's ceremonial role overseeing the certification proceeding. That was John Eastman. Co-conspirator number 3, an attorney whose unfounded claims of election fraud the defendant privately acknowledged to others sounded crazy. Nonetheless, he embraced and publicly amplified co-conspirator number 3's disinformation. That's Sidney Powell. Co-conspirator number 4, a Justice Department official who worked on civil matters and who, with the defendant, attempted to use the Justice Department to open a sham election. That's Jeffrey Clark, the environmental guy from the Department of Justice that they tried to make the Attorney General, but then Rich Donahue and Jeff Rosen said the entire Department of Justice would resign if you put this unqualified guy in there. Co-conspirator number 5, an attorney who assisted in devising and attempting to implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential electors to obstruct the certification proceeding. That's Ken Cheeseborough, clearly. But co-conspirators number 6, I have no idea who this is. It's unlike the others, it doesn't say an attorney. It says that it's a political consultant who helped implement a plan to submit fraudulent slates of presidential elections to obstruct certification proceedings. So I'm not sure who that is, but I'm probably people will guess in the next coming days and we'll figure out who that is. The most notable thing about this is the way Jack Smith refers to these 6 co-conspirators is he refers to them as co-conspirators as opposed to the way what's normally and customarily done is they call them unindicted co-conspirators. Jack Smith didn't add the unindicted part, which leads me to believe that they're already indicted. It's just that they are going to be indicted and prosecuted under a separate indictment. Look, you can't have 100 people on an indictment. 100 people don't fit in a courtroom. You can't even really have more than 4 or 5 defendants in an indictment because they don't fit in a courtroom because, you have not just the defendants, you have each of them have several attorneys. There just aren't enough tables and chairs and logistics to do that. So it makes sense to separate them out and indict them in different groupings. And so I suspect we're going to see that they are already indicted under a sealed indictment and that they will be charged separately. So the 4 counts that Jack Smith chose to charge Donald Trump with are count number 1, 18 United States Code, Section 371, which is a conspiracy to defraud the United States. Count 2, 18 United States Code 1512, a conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, clearly the counting of the votes on January 6. Count 3, the obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, similar to count 2. And count 4, 18 U.S.C. Section 241, a conspiracy against rights. That's the right to vote. Potentially, it could be also Mike Pence's right to certify the election. This indictment literally takes you through all of the facts. It's worth reading. It's easy to read. All of the facts of Trump's 3-step plan to overturn the multi-step plan to overturn the election. Let's talk about what we think the 18 U.S.C. 371 conspiracy to defraud the United States. That requires 2 or more people to conspire to defraud the U.S. And basically by trying to defeat a governmental function. Again, I think this is regarding the Pence vote counts as well as the false slates of electors. This is clearly very much Mike Pence is going to testify about this at trial. It talks about his notes that he kept, and a lot comes from him and his contemporary notes. He's critical in here because he's the victim of this crime and an eyewitness to this crime. So I think both the pressure campaign to Mike Pence as well as the false slates of electors are very much squarely going to be this is related to this charge. The second charge, 18 U.S.C. 1512, the scheme to obstruct the counting of the presidential electors. Again, this is the pressure campaign against Pence because anyone who corruptly obstructs or impedes or attempts an official proceeding. Clearly, the counting of the votes on in certifying the election was an official proceeding that day. Look, they have to prove that the defendant acted corruptly. That's the mens rea here. But he wasn't acting in the best interest of the country. He was acting in his own self-interest to try to retain power at any cost. So they've got that. And then the third charge, 18 U.S.C. 241, is the civil rights conspiracy, where it's unlawful for 2 or more people to threaten or intimidate a person in their free exercise or enjoyment of their rights. So it's someone acting under the color of law. In other words, in their official capacity, that like a public servant is acting like they're allowed to do it, and they then they impede your rights, like your right to vote. This was initially passed after the Civil War to punish KKK members for intimidating Black voters who were exercising their right to vote. And this is the fake elector scheme. What's notable is what was not in this indictment. So Jack Smith didn't charge insurrection in violation, the Insurrection Act versus in violation of 18 United States Code 2383, that a lot of people believed he would not bring that charge because that charge has not been brought since the Civil War. But the other charge that was not brought that surprised me was the Insurrection Act, which is 18 U.S.C. 2380. I'm sorry, not Insurrection Act, seditious conspiracy, excuse me, 18 United States Code 2384. Now, that's the charge that that many people were charged with, like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, and the Stuart Rhodeses of the January 6th, insurrection, the people who breached the Capitol and who tried to violently overthrow the government, essentially. They were charged with seditious conspiracy. And, look, they thought they were doing what Trump wanted them to do. He could have been charged with seditious conspiracy, both for his attempt to steal the election and then conspire with these individuals. Plus, he gave aid or comfort there, too, of these individuals during the 187 minutes that he did not act while they were in there. And Trump was watching TV and watching the violence. So he could have been charged with that, but Jack Smith decided not to, probably to keep this clean and streamlined. And, some people would say, why take on more charges than you need to prove at trial? Because obviously, it's much easier if you don't have more charges. You have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's a harder one to charge. So he picked the rock crushers, the ones that he could easily get a conviction on. And, just like the roll of the dice and what judge you get, we got Eileen Cannon in Mar-a-Lago. Jack Smith rolled the dice here and got Judge Chutkan, an Obama appointee. And although she's a former defense attorney, she's known to be a harsh sentencer on these January 6th cases. So she's a great judge. I don't think we could have picked a better judge. And frankly, she will get this case to trial before the election if Jack Smith is ready to go, and I'm sure he will be. I think he's going to do exactly what he did with Mar-a-Lago, which is turn over all of the discovery early, as well as point out to Trump, this is, here's all the evidence, but this is the stuff you really should focus on because this is where it is, the important stuff, to try to streamline this and get this case going. And I think Judge Chutkan is not going to allow Donald Trump to try to delay this case. Jack Smith gave a very brief, less than 10-minute press conference today where he talked about that an indictment was sealed. It was a conspiracy to defraud the United States and disenfranchise the voters, and a conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding. He encouraged everyone to read it. It's easy to read. You don't have to be a lawyer to read it. I agree with him. And what I loved what he had to say was this was an attack. It was an assault on our democracy, and it was fueled by lies. And the law enforcement who defended the Capitol are heroes. The men and women of the Capitol Police and others who defended the Capitol that day are heroes. What gave me the chills and what I loved is what he talked about. They weren't just heroes for defending the property or the people in them, but they were there to defend our institutions, our democracy, because that's what's at stake in this case. And, this is a very, very important case. This is by far the most important indictment so far of Donald Trump. And it's probably the most significant political indictment that will be brought in my lifetime, given what happened on January 6th, and that we had a president who tried to thwart the rule of law, upend our democracy, and literally steal an election. So that's what we have here. Trump's going to be arraigned on Thursday, August 4th, I believe is the date. Maybe it's August 3rd, but it's Thursday. And so we'll all be there for the arraignment. Stay tuned. Watch us, Legal AF, every Wednesday and Saturday with my co-hosts Ben Meiselas and Michael Popak. And thanks for watching. I'm Karen Friedman, Agnifilo.
Hey, Meidas Mighty. Love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.